Big time fight coming up this weekend, tentatively still scheduled on the main card. We have a late notice replacement coming in for Don'Tale Mayes in the form of, a former opponent of Don'Tale Mayes, Harry the Hurricane Hunsucker, and a lot of people might be familiar with him from his time on Dana White's Contender Series this past November. He took on the Mountain Jared Vanderaa, and unfortunately for Hunsucker, he lost in the first round. Vanderaa just withstood the pressure, got him down to the mat, and hammered away, gets a TKO win. That's kind of the story for Harry Hunsucker's overall career. Look, 10 pro fights, all of them have ended in the first round. 7 of those fights, he's won. And yes, the level of competition might not be the best. Hell, out of all of his wins, all 7 of them, combined opponent's record, 32-48. That's not the greatest, but he's finishing the fights in the way that you'd want him to finish them. And if you look at the losses, Jared Vanderaa, Don'Tale Mayes was his 3rd pro fight back in 2016, and William Vincent, he lost in 2015 in his debut. So, for Harry Hunsucker, the thing that we really like out of him is his power, but not just his power. It's really the fact that he will blitz forward and he has the opportunity to definitely put your lights out.
He really does, but there's a bit of an issue. If Harry Hunsucker does just blitz forward against Tai Tuivasa, he's going to get knocked out pretty quick because Tai Tuivasa, he will get into those brawls, and that's kind of why you like him. That's why he's a bit of a fan favorite. People like the shoeies, they like the personality, but he does get into fun fights. The problem is, he's a very technical striker when he wants to be a technical striker, and if Harry Hunsucker goes in there and tries to brawl, just tries to move forward and be reckless, he's going to walk into a big counter shot, and it'll be very similar to Andre Arlovski versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, where he rushed forward, gets hit by one check hook, and falls down. That'd be his worst path to victory. If you're Harry Hunsucker, he has a decent ground game. Now, I'm not going to say he's like Curtis Blades. He's going to go out there and shoot for a takedown immediately. But if he's going to win this fight, he's going to need to incorporate the takedown at some point. Because with Tai Tuivasa, when we really ask ourselves who's going to beat Tai Tuivasa, you know, I'm going to bring him up. Marcin Tybura is the perfect kryptonite for
Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Exactly, or a guy like Shamil Abdurakhimov. If you can either A, out-grapple Tai Tuivasa, you can beat him, or B, withstand his power and just kind of make it through the big storm, which is what Hunsucker had to do, I guess, against Vanderaa, and he was unsuccessful too. If Tai Tuivasa can just get over that first big storm with Hunsucker, I don't think Hunsucker has better cardio. I think he can out-grapple Tuivasa for small moments of the fight, but I do think he'll have a hard time out-grappling Tuivasa for rounds at a time.
So you're already familiar with Tai Tuivasa. We've seen him time and again in the UFC since he made his debut way back in 2017 against Rashad Coulter. He went on a 3-fight win streak. Then he went on a 3-fight losing streak. Looked like he was cut by the promotion, and then they brought him back for the fight against Stefan Struve. Not cut, knocked him out twice in that fight. But for Hunsucker, again, you know him from the Vanderaa fight. You probably saw him on Contender Series back in November. What does he do? He comes back out in February. He doesn't sulk. He ends up taking on the man himself, Corey Moon. He was defending his HR MMA heavyweight strap. Hunsucker was, going back to the promotion. And he goes out there weighing 250 pounds. That's good for a heavyweight these days. You know, we've seen guys weighing in consistently, like, even in the 230s, 240s, still a little fleet of foot, able to throw with power. Hunsucker at 250, not one of the taller guys in the division at 6'2", but neither is Tai Tuivasa, and he weighs in near the top of the scale. Corey Moon weighed in 35 pounds above the heavyweight limit at 300 pounds, outweighed Hunsucker by 50, and Hunsucker ends the fight the way that you'd want him to. And the thing that he throws that's great, you love his left hook on the break. He had a great one against Billy Swanson. Out of that fight, I learned a couple of things. The fact that Saudi Daisy is a place. They also used the word flexibilist in that fight, and the fact that the ring announcer used his phone with a pop socket to read out the notes. I mean, hey,
pretty cool.
Who needs cue cards? But you look at all of these fights together, the Swanson fight knocks him out in 50 seconds. He knocked out former San Antonio Spurs great Tony Parker, who was 15-7 at the time. Well, no, he didn't. He finished him by Americana, and that's one of those things. You go watch the Tony Parker fight, you win by Americana. In his next fight, he takes on Jordan Mitchell, who's 9-14. Gets him down to the ground, blitzes in, takes him down, gets in, and starts to land some ground and pound. And you hear the commentary team as Hunsucker starts to grab for the arm. He's going for the Americana. He actually gets a Kimura and dislocates Mitchell's elbow. I hate watching fights where they dislocate elbows. I saw Ryan Sanders do it against Vince McGuinness in person, and it was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. But Hunsucker, like you said, the wrestling to get into the takedown, the strikes to get the wrestling to get the takedown, it's all there. The parts are there. Could he catch Tai Tuivasa? 100% he could. He's a heavyweight. If you go back and watch that Vanderaa fight, that's the fight where I saw him have the most success because he just kept hitting him, and he was cracking Vanderaa. But at about 2.5 minutes of the first round, he starts sucking wind, And then a little bit after that, he's winging overhand rights, and that was kind of all she wrote.
And the real problem I have with Hunsucker in this fight is the fact that he doesn't have a good way to get into his wrestling range. He will just kind of throw punches to try to close the distance, and if you're just throwing a bunch of wild shots, you're going to get caught by a counter at some point, and maybe you are lucky enough that you can catch Tai Tuivasa before he can hit you, but as you work your way up the ranks, like, that doesn't work against a guy like Rosenstrike. That certainly doesn't work against a guy like Stipe. I know it's hard to compare Harry Hunsucker to Stipe Miocic right now, but still, just something to look at moving forward. I like Tuivasa in this fight an awful lot, though.
I like Tuivasa as well. I mean, he's taken on Tapology's 37th ranked regional heavyweight in the United States.
Ooh.
Just for reference, your number one is Tony Lopez. You know him from fighting everybody you've ever seen at heavyweight. And Robert Morrow, who I watched weigh in at 214, 215 pounds against Adam Mashevsky, who weighed 265, and Morrow beat him on the Bellator prelim. So if you're a Bellator prelim fan, this is a fight for you, really, if we're coming down to the nuts and bolts of it. 160 total votes on Tapology, 88% going with Tuivasa, 92% by knockout. Listen, if you look at it for Hunsucker, 10 fights, all of them have ended in the first round, for better or for worse. Tai Tuivasa is a knockout artist. You're probably going to take the under 2.5 rounds. Maybe you'd even consider under 1.5. But I'm going with Australia's Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah, I like Tai Tuivasa a lot. He'll probably be drinking a lot of beer out of shoes after this.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. We're both going with Tai Tuivasa to get the win. Really looking forward to this card. And Matt, we have a lot of special stuff going on with Fight Night Picks this week. We have the new interviews from JHK MMA. We got a new show coming out. We have the picks, predictions, question mark kicks on Saturday. And our sale on the shop, FightNightPicks.com, ends this weekend. Use promo code FNP25. You're going to save 25% off your order at FightNightPicks.com. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. And as we always say, let's get into it.